Hello everyone, and welcome to Maximizing Your IT Investments, Microsoft Lync for Higher Ed. My name is Carolyn Reginato, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. Today we'll be discussing the impact that Microsoft Lync can have on students, faculty, and the operations of college and university campuses. We'll be showing you some real-world use cases of how Lync is being used in higher ed today, and also how you can get started with Lync in your college or university. I'd like to now introduce our speaker and Lync expert, Frank Kania.
Hello, how are you everyone?
Frank is the Chief Technology Officer here at Voice and Data Networks and has led many large Lync projects in higher education as well as in other industries. His mastery of Lync combined with his background in telephony brings a unique and holistic perspective to your college or university. With that, I'll hand it over to Frank.
Thank you, Carolyn. So I wanted to spend a little time today talking about a topic that's of some importance and that's getting a lot of attention in the market, and that's Microsoft Lync. But a lot of people are trying to decide what Lync can do for them, how to use it, and how to engage with Lync. So we're going to talk a little bit about what Lync is, how to use it, and the benefits that people in real-world situations have experienced as a result of using Lync. When we talk about Lync, I like to talk about Lync as a way of enabling, connecting learning environments. When I talk about that, we're talking about the fact that communities are critical to learning and that teachers and students must collaborate, they must work with other institutions, they must connect with parents, alumni, and students, and most importantly, do it with tools that people already know and use. One of the most exciting thing about Lync is that in many respects, students come already educated. So the learning curve to this kind of technology is quite shallow because people are already used to using mobile devices and instant messaging and text and so on and communications in their everyday lives. So you're going to find that students and professors are going to be empowered to work in a way that they previously couldn't. And most importantly, you're going to realize operational benefits in the way of infrastructure changes, the ability to communicate in a reliable, secure, and integrated fashion using a common set of tools across the different platforms and options that exist that previously you couldn't before. So one of the things that I like to talk about is, we've got a nice video here because I wanted to illustrate for people a lot of the different things that you can do and how Lync can work for you. So I think this runs to about 3 minutes, not much more. So Carolyn will kick that off.
One great tool that teachers and students can use to extend learning beyond the hours of the classroom is Microsoft Lync. You can see the Lync window here with all of the contacts that I might have available. So teachers can now pull in experts from outside of the classroom environment or even take learning beyond the hours that the students are actually at school. So let's assume that I want to have a discussion or a class or a revision session with Leah. If I drop Leah into the meeting, she will automatically be involved and I can chat with her in real time. On the right hand side of the screen you can see that there is an upload of a PowerPoint that I might use as some information for the class, and then I can also have other forms of interaction with Leah. One of the other possibilities in the meeting or in the lesson is to turn video on, and that means that I can then see the person who is involved in the class. So now I can see Leah, who's involved in our class. If I don't want the video on anymore, of course, I can immediately turn that off and just rely on voice, and our chat window continues. One of the great possibilities for using Lync with students outside of class time is the ability to record the session that you are doing. And what this does is allows for the students to be able to watch back this lesson or this activity. The other option is the possibility of sharing resources online in real time. So you can see here that we are sharing a presentation that we can go through, and as soon as I switch slides, then Leah, the student, will be watching those slides live. Similarly, I can type on these and make notes or additions straight on top of the slide, or if I'm using a tablet PC, then I can very easily draw on top of these slides and draw attention to certain parts of detail if I want to. One thing we often want to do is see whether our students are following the content that we might be going through with them. So we can use the polling feature in Lync. So here we have a survey, and if I can ask Leah to respond to that survey, she can read the question herself, it's appearing on her screen, and as soon as she votes, it comes across live to the teacher. One of the other things we can do is immediately share the results with all of the attendees. So therefore, if I go show results to everyone, that means the students will now be able to see the graph and have some idea of the opinion of their fellow students. Another way that we can interact is using what's called a whiteboard. A whiteboard really is a space where we could do writing or typing or anything else we want to in this space. I've set up a graph here that I might have a conversation with the students about the numbers of staff that are actually coming into physical workplaces over time. And of course, I could make some sort of predictions on here about what I think, so many staff at the start and decreasing over time. And if I wanted my students to respond, Leah, can you respond there to what you think happens in your environment? They can immediately interact with this graph in real time. So that graph can then be saved out. Any of these features can be saved. And once again, the session is being recorded for later use if we need it. So you can see how Microsoft Lync is a very powerful tool for teaching and learning. When I stop recording, it will allow me to automatically save out that meeting to view back at a later time.
Thank you, Carolyn. So what I wanted to spend a little time today is kind of give you a sense of what is Lync, why you might be interested in it, how you can benefit from it, and most importantly, things you can do to get started right away. So when it comes to what is Lync, there's a nice definition here. I like to think of it a little bit different. I think that's an excellent way to view it. But I really like to think of Lync as a suite of tools and applications all tightly integrated that are focused on organizational and operational efficiency. What it does is empower all of its users, students, faculty, staff, and administration, to be more productive and effective in what they do every day using tools they already know and use to get their work done. I think many of us realize that communications has changed, and it's changed in ways both palpable and not. But the way in which we connect and share where we study and work, how we study and work, quite frankly, even when we study and work, changes. I have a colleague, for example, whom I often find in a coffee shop working, and he works just effectively in the coffee shop, so he says, as he does when he's in the office. Arguably, I might say he works even better. But the reality is, it wakes up a whole new set of questions, though, and opportunities in terms of how secure are we, what device we own, choose to learn, carry, and use, and more importantly, the environmental footprint we leave. When you think about it, what Lync really does extraordinarily well is it connects people in new and different ways. We can now, as you notice, instant message and be aware of presence. And when you think about presence, think of presence as something along the lines of willingness and ability to access someone on their device of choice. Right now, most communication modalities, fancy word for the things we use to communicate with each other, dictate how we learn and work and communicate. And now, quite frankly, with the notion of presence, we get away from the sense of device and technology more into a willingness to be accessed, and the person gets to decide the device and method by which they're accessed. And if you noticed in the video, we can go from an instant message to an audio, video, or collaboration session seamlessly and simply And we can also layer the critical element of voice at any part of the process that we like and do it independent of location or time, as we like to say in the industry, anywhere, anytime, with any device. So what's really neat about this stuff is it really becomes your time communications. And that's a really interesting notion because it really changes the way you work, the way you staff, and the way you anticipate communication. So here's why I wanted to talk a little bit about why you should even care about Lync. I always say, well, basically what's in it for me? How am I going to benefit? How's my institution going to benefit? How can I do more with less? That's the mantra we hear all the time. And for me, I have the benefit of traveling a fair bit and spending my time in a lot of different environments. And in the course of it, what I've learned is people use a whole lot more devices. I remember back to my college experience, and it's like night and day. There's a multitude of different devices. There's many different ways of working, and people work from all sorts of different places and all sorts of different ways. And when I thought, there's got to be one common tool set that allows you to weave all of those things together. And that one common element is communication. And Lync is uniquely positioned, we think, to do just that because it ties all of these different devices, work models, and methods together. So what I look at when you're talking about this stuff, when we're talking about in the end of the day, in an educational setting, we're really talking engaging students and empowering educators. And when you think of, there's some scenarios that I think this works very well in the video, a couple of them were illustrated. But some of them, when I think about consolidation and better utilization of resources, when I think about after-class help and tutoring and mentoring opportunities, the ability to facilitate student-to-student interaction, both within the campus setting itself, but also in industry and outside of industry. I think of 3M, who's now developing partnerships with schools, both K-12 and higher education, that allows students to interact with engineers who are at the top of their field and are pioneers in what they're bringing to the market, and give students an unparalleled opportunity to do that, and they never have to leave the building. When I think about virtual visits, I think about the ability to engage with prospective employers and international experiences. This is critically important. India is actually leading the educational marketplace right now with bringing Lync to the classroom, and their students are able to have cultural exchanges and opportunities to interact with students the world over in a way that previously was impossible. And then more importantly is translation services. As we all see the transformation in education being a very multicultural experience, I'm seeing the need to have translation services available. They can be both expensive and cumbersome, and the ability to make that available across not only a geographically dispersed campus, but across different campuses of the same institution is just incredible. And it can be done personally, it can be done in a secure fashion, and it can be done quickly. So when you look at some of the examples, it's pretty apparent, I think, that you look at these things and say the opportunity you're having in terms of the impact to a student and being able to deliver a personalized educational experience, but more importantly, reducing travel time without sacrificing the interpersonal nature of something like after-class help or tutoring, and being able to leverage those resources regardless of location is critical, because now you can pose questions through IM or a video conference even when that faculty member or tutor might not be on campus. And when you think about adjunct faculty and people that are heavily engaged in industry, it allows them and the student to maximize productivity and do it in a way where the students feel that they quite frankly matter. Well, student collaboration is perhaps one of the biggest initiatives that I see. Many institutions are engaged with industry. They're giving very practical involvement, and students now have an opportunity to interact in a way they never could before. Students get access to an anytime collaboration environment, but most importantly, students get to immerse themselves in different cultures, customs, and learning modalities without travel and the expense and risk that comes with it. And more importantly, what I hear from faculty all the time is their ability to monitor student progress in real time and provide relevant feedback and be able to incorporate those learning experiences into the curriculum in a very dynamic way. The virtual visit thing, and I've gotten to experience some of this personally, strikes me as one of the most exciting opportunities that students have to learn from industry experts and people outside the school. I can remember from my own experience, that only happened a few times a year because we had to bring that expert in, and there was a lot of expense and logistics associated with it. But even to be able to broaden people's worldview with non-traditional learning experiences and be able to do it with a frequency that you couldn't before, this now becomes an everyday or an every week encounter as to oppose to a once or twice a year opportunity. So the last part of this, and I think it's actually really quite telling, is the opportunity to focus on operational benefits. Things like teacher-to-teacher collaboration we talked about, but virtual administrative meetings. I do some work quite a bit in the state of Minnesota, and people are always telling me, well, I had to go to Mankato for this, or I had to run to Red Wing for that. That ability to benefit from those kind of opportunities and, quite frankly, to shed the cost and the loss of productivity associated with travel, as well as the environmental stewardship of spending less time and fewer greenhouse gases and all the things that come with it, are critically important. When we're talking about virtual campus recruiting, I have a niece now that travels all over the country. We're recruiting for various colleges and universities, and I thought to myself, what would it be like if you could sit and meet with prospects in a very personal way, and be able to advance the university programs that you're representing? And she goes, wow, that'd be incredible. It absolutely is, and people are doing this now. When I think about athletic recruiting, again, critically important. Access to administrative resources for students. People are looking for new ways to make all of those resources available and offer personal assistance in the course of it. Remote interviews, and most importantly, the ability to work from anywhere. And when I really think about this stuff, and we'll go into the examples here, but really it's all about, in the end of the day, how we connect, where we study, when we study, who we employ, and how secure those encounters are, and what impact we leave. But in the end of the day, it's a lot about, for me, what I own and how it's managed. Because in the end of the day, I've got to manage it, make it work, and it's got to be reliable and dependable, and most importantly, secure. So let's talk a little bit about some of those things, because when you talk about virtual administrative meetings, what I hear about a lot of people, we all use traditional video conferencing systems. People are used to that. It takes too long to get the meeting started. Inevitably, it takes 8 to 10 minutes to get the video going because there's only one person who knows how to make it work. The equipment is underutilized. It's easier to use a conference room speakerphone. So, hey, we don't use video, and we often find ourselves traveling more. Remote attendees often feel isolated. Since videos typically show content, remote attendees are not visible, and people tend to shy away from it. And then lastly, it's just plain hard to manage. Changing presenters, showing attendees, muting participants. All of that stuff gets critically challenged. So when you talk about being able to reduce travel time, improve productivity and efficiency, and save costs associated with in-person meetings, both setup, extra staff, and just the logistical challenges and the resulting lost productivity, critically important. What we're seeing for this stuff is a huge savings. What people report, and we've been able to measure it consistently over time, is up to a 95% reduction in their outlay for conferencing services. When we talk about virtual campus recruiting, this one is just, I think, really a cool thing because it just changes the whole complexity of this discussion. You can get to a point, you can talk with people, you can introduce Skype, the recruiter can show information during the interaction that makes the discussion very compelling for the prospect. And rather than meeting, you can spend a lot of time improving and focusing on the school and less time traveling to do site interviews. You can improve job search efficiency. It's just a whole lot more effective way. And quite frankly, you can cover more territory and do it at less cost. So it's really a big thing. Travel cost savings really drop. We're seeing a reduction in travel costs as a result of reduced travel and improved operational efficiencies. That's really quite huge. So when you talk about administrative assistance, I really talked about why that's important, because administrative assistance is really focused on making different resources available. I can get immediate access to school administrators to resolve pressing issues. Use that benefit of reduced travel time to focus on critical school elements and deliver better, overall, more efficient services to more students with the same or fewer staff. And as I said, what we're seeing with this stuff is a huge benefit out of the gate. 30% reduction in people that integrate this technology into the workflow and services delivery. But most importantly, work from anywhere. When I talk about this, I get to hire few people who can be at several places at once. When you really think, I'm thinking about nurses, athletic trainers. Carolyn was telling me, she said, wouldn't it be great if, if an athletic trainer could, diagnose an injury from a player when they're not at the game? And I'm going, wow, I never thought of that. That's an incredibly good idea. When you talk about the benefits of it, the collateral benefits, reduced office space, because now people can work off campus as effectively as they do it on campus. And when you think about this in industry, and I'm already seeing the beginning benefits of this in education, is improved employee retention as a result of the flexibility in work models. And this is becoming a key competitive differentiator in college and university recruitment for faculty and staff. What I can tell you, when you think about this, and this is consistent, we're seeing telephony cost savings up to 75% as a result of this. So let's get into the meat of it. Where does IT benefit? Because in the end of the day, that's where it all matters. When we talked about a communications and platform that's intuitive and everywhere, we're talking about driving revenue by creating an experience that lowers cost and operational risk and is more attractive to students. I hear this all the time. I got to do more with less, and I often hear in education, I don't buy what I want, I buy what I can afford. This is one of the few opportunities you're going to have to truly do more with less. You're going to be able to provide a set of capabilities that can be managed with tools and skills that you already have, that will have an immediate and real financial impact on the institution while empowering people to work in new and different ways. So I just wanted to, tell you again that, these savings are real. It's not ephemeral. I'm not getting into things like soft dollar benefits and how much happier people will be and how much more productive they be. These are tangible savings, meaning money that you would have spent that as a result of integrating this technology into the classroom and into administration, that you can realize that's money you would have spent but will not. So that's an important distinction to make. So let's talk about briefly, Lync is an enabler. When I think about it, Lync is not the benefit, it's what makes the benefit possible. So when we talk about it, think of Lync as driving the transformation. Lync is not the end game, it's the means to an end. So by enabling all of your staff, students, locations, access to all of their information on all of their devices all of the time, I'm going to stress to you, and we've got resources that you can tap into to help you, that training and user adoption are critical. So one of the things that Carolyn's going to be, I think, passing out at the end is an access to a Lync user adoption guide and some resources to help you understand device selection and those sorts of things. I think you're going to find those things are critically important to people's perception of how successful this sort of technology in your particular setting is. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about what you can do with Lync. There's different implementation methods. We said, integrating Lync with investments you've already made. You can introduce Lync standalone into your environment, enjoy all of the instant messaging and presence capabilities, do whiteboard and application sharing and content sharing, and do point-to-point communications. By layering in your PBX and optionally exchange unified messaging, you can have the ability to introduce the voice communication elements to that, and also a universal inbox with speech-to-text preview and access to your calendar and all of your other Outlook resources via the telephone. And lastly, if you talk to the Microsoft folks, and you've probably read some about it, and there's lots of blogs about it, about replacing your legacy PBX with Lync, and that's an option for you also. So there's lots of different scenarios for you to consider. But in the end of the day, why do you want to do that? One of the advantages you have of integrating your PBX with Lync is you can add a lot of new features without grip and rip. There's no need to replace the investments you have in a thing that's already serving you well. You can get all the benefits of Lync without having to retrain your users, possibly defer that very expensive PBX upgrade you were facing, while enjoying all of the conferencing savings, the productivity gains. So let's think about some things we have to think about. And we've got some information to help you here also, but there's some things to think about. When you go through this, think about your IP environment. Do you have power over Ethernet and those sorts of things? What does your LAN and Wi-Fi look like? Because when you talk about in Wi-Fi, you want ubiquitous access. What happens if I'm using a Wi-Fi enabled device and I walk into an area that doesn't have coverage? Might not be too terribly effective in the course of a phone call. What kind of devices will you use? Device choice has a lot to do with perception of success. Don't relegate it to some back office discussion. Focus on it, dedicate people to it, understand your users and what they need to get their job done every day. How does your PBX fit into the equation? Quality of service. What kind of IP addressing scheme do you have? What requirements for firewall and data security do you have? There's all these sorts of things that are going to be, and while they seem daunting, they're not. The reason I bring them up is that you need to know about them and you need to plan for them. The other thing is, there's always people, technology, and process, right? So there's a people checklist here too. And over time, we've developed a methodology to address these various things. But I wanted you to focus in on it because it's essential. And that's get top-level buy-in. This is something that you need to prepare people for. People need to be on board because in order to realize the benefits, it's critically important that you have the user adoption and that you integrate it not only into the curriculum, but into the lives of faculty, staff, and to the extent that you want students. So get that executive sponsorship. Understand what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to go about it. And that's critically important. Align process to the capabilities. Formulate an awareness campaign. It's critically important to get buy-in at the mid-ranks and down. You want both top-down and bottom-up alignment and awareness. To form hands-on workshops. Know what people need and give them just what they need. And get those end-user champions or black belts to help you champion the product and support the end users after deployment, because that's critical. This is an ongoing thing. And then pilot. You don't know what you don't know. So when we talk about these things, we've got some resources that will give you actionable steps to help you move towards Lync. And that's why I said there's a technology and people checklist and also a guide to desk phone selection, or as they like to call it in the Lync world, devices. But we didn't want to be quite that impersonal, so we're going to call them desk phones for the sake of argument. So just a little bit about what we do. I mentioned that we have a process and a methodology that's been honed over quite a long period of time. We've been with the solution since its very inception, back in the Office Communication Servers days and actually back to LCS. So we understand what it takes to get this done. So we can provide you both integration expertise and managed services across a multitude of different platforms. We're not wedded to any one PBX platform or any one particular set of network infrastructure. So anyone that tells you to the difference in the industry, I want you to know that that's critically important. We both an option for network-based as well as cloud-based options for Lync deployment, voice and unified communications across the entire enterprise, both contact center, collaboration, and mobility, because there are facets of all three of those that you need to address here. The data networking elements, we do everything in the data networking elements, and most importantly, we have a methodology that allows for staff augmentation. You can do what you're good at and shed those parts of the project that you either don't have the resources, bandwidth, or willingness to take on. So when I say that what we do for people is we get it done for them, I always tell people that we understand the vision, strategy, and challenges. We assess and review the existing IT infrastructure and flag those elements that need to be addressed, and then we can customize an engagement to address them, or you can address them on your own. That we have a proven methodology to assist you in identifying the requirements, definition, to identify the devices and needs that you have. We can assemble those into areas of focus and then assist you in planning and supporting that structure initially and on an ongoing basis. And then most importantly, setting up metrics to measure the business benefits and then assessing those benefits over time, allowing you to refine the solution as it goes. So let's talk about what you get, because I said we wanted to make this easy and give you something bite-sized. And we have absolutely done that. We have two offers, an enterprise deployment and a quick start that can get you in there. Quick start gets you basic Lync instant messaging presence, desktop and application sharing, and audio and video conferencing, $9,000 in professional services. Enterprise deployment will give you all of those things in addition to conferencing IDs and enterprise telephony, either integrated to your PBX, beside your PBX, or replacing your PBX, as the case may be. And then there's additional offers that we can add on to those in the way of Exchange, unified messaging, SharePoint, load balancing services, and so on, as you might deem appropriate. And then a place where if you're looking for a quick win, if you're looking something for truly transformative that will change people's lives and the way they work right away, Exchange Unified Messaging is the way to go. It gives you a universal inbox for email, voicemail, and fax, independent of mobile device, includes voicemail, preview, and automated attendant features. Automated attendance features both touch tone and speech activated, in support with 26 languages out of the box. All you have to do is have the licenses. For anybody that wants to know the particulars of the bout, reach out and we can, help evaluate the licenses that you have and let you know what you have. $4,000 out the door for a voicemail solution this robust, including speech access to calendaring, your reminders, calling and conferencing capabilities right out of the gate. It is easy to do. It's outpatient surgery. I highly encourage you to look into it, and if you want more detail, reach out, let us know. And with that, I'm done within like 3 minutes of when Carolyn told me I had to be.
It's pretty good. That was a lot of great information packed into a short amount of time. We have a few minutes left for any questions that you may have. Again, please type your questions into the chat box on the right of your screen. One of the first questions is, can you see all of the students at the same time or just one at a time, and will the students be able to see each other? I believe this is in reference to the video that we saw.
The answer is you have the option to do all of the above. So you can have where you can see everybody in a panorama, depending on the kind of, you can see people in the tile on the board. So there's different methods that you can do that, but the answer is you can restrict it to just the instructor, just the person speaking. You can tile them and display them in various things, and Carolyn will collect to answer the question, and I'll send you an example of the different options you have for how the participants can be displayed.
Wonderful. This participant uses Google Apps for education. How can they utilize this without having to change back to Exchange?
There's no requirement. There's no requirement for Exchange with Lync, other than if you did Exchange as a PBX, Lync as a PBX replacement rather, and you needed voicemail, at which you would need Exchange It's the only voicemail platform for use with Lync. But if you want to integrate Google with Lync, you can do that. There's a thing called the XMPP gateway that facilitates that interaction, and that's supported in addition to the Skype integrations and so on. But so the answer is there's no need that you dispense with Google to take advantage of any of the benefits that we described in Lync. They can work in tandem with one another.
And I believe the question is, can you start from the Quick Start and then move to the Enterprise Deployment Package?
You most certainly can. We have a migration path to do that, and you have an option depending on your license model so that we can absolutely position you as part of the Quick Start to take on the enterprise deployment at a markedly reduced cost.
Wonderful. How easy is it to set up user permissions in Lync, for example, for a help desk?
Lync, like all of the latest suite of Microsoft application support, roles-based access control. So you'll have the option to allocate, for example, permissions necessary, for example, moves, adds, and changes to add a user, delete a user, or make modifications to a user without giving them the keys to the kingdom.
And how do I know if I have the right licenses to integrate my PBX with Lync?
You can call us, and we will happily look at, meaning you can reach out, and Carolyn will give you, I think that information's on the screen actually, and we'll happily evaluate. So if you have an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, you can share a copy of your EA, and we can evaluate the licenses that you have versus what you might need. And we have oftentimes been able to save people substantial sums of money by pairing what it is they want to do with the licenses they'll require, so they don't buy licenses that are not necessary for the type of deployment you anticipate. So that's actually a critical thing that we can do for you, and we're happy to do it.
Can you utilize Lync with remote assistance or something similar for Macs?
Lync is actually, there is a Lync client for Mac available. And if anybody is interested, I think I'll get Carolyn to post it on our blog, the capabilities of the Mac client. So you'll see there, but it is all fully supported, yes.
Does anybody have any more questions? All right, if we don't have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. There's contact information there if you think of something later. But other than that, thank you for attending the webinar, and we will be sending you the documents and downloads shortly after. Also, this will be available on recording on our website, and I will send you all of the link to that if you would like to watch again. Thank you so much for attending. Have a good day.
Thank you.